I kind of want to just get a job. Is it okay for me to get a job? So let's allow this video to be a reintroduction video, a very chill, no makeup, no music, where I get an opportunity to just be me, because that is what ultimately I have only ever wanted to do. So my day does look a little bit different now. I mean, it kind of looks similar. I've been working from home since I've been working for myself. This has literally been my same office since we moved in here. We've been in this place for a couple of years now. So, like, my actual process of what I do day to day is pretty much similar. I went from being an entrepreneur to now being an intrapreneur. And the last 2 years have honestly really been great. It's been a season of peace for me, which has been very interesting. And it did take some transition. So if you're new here, maybe this video will be interesting to you just to see what it's like to go from being an entrepreneur to an intrapreneur. If you're an oldie, then hopefully this gives you a look into what I've been doing over the past couple years, since I haven't been producing any content on this channel since then, and actually got demonetized. Thanks, YouTube. So to take you back, the whole thing all really started when I hit my best income year of like all the years in my business. And it was like 2021. Things were going great. The business was going great. And like when 2021 wrapped, I was really like on a high. The only goal that I still hadn't reached was that I hadn't made $1 million. Like that was always my goal. It's like I want to make $1 million with my business. And because that was the goal and because I hadn't reached it, I was still moving towards it, right? There was no reason for me to stop. But then sometime in the middle of 2022, I reached my 7-figure goal. I reached $1 million earned in the business by somewhere in the middle of 2022. And I want to say, I'm looking at my YouTube now to see if I can find that actual video. I want to say the minute that I reached that goal, that was when I started feeling overwhelmed. My next thought was, okay, well, since I reached $1 million total, the next goal is to reach $1 million in a year. And I thought about what it took to get me to that first million and what would be required to get me to that next million. And my brain just went, is this really what you want to do? I knew that I didn't want to continue scaling a business that was dependent on me. Like I was doing live streams every week, loved doing the live streams, but I was doing those every week, showing up. I was doing YouTube videos. I was publishing one per week at that point, batching my content. I was writing all of my newsletters. I was running all of my own ads. I was trying to get speaking engagements and doing speaking engagements. And so all of these things that I was doing that are related to running a solo person business or an influencer or a speaker-led business was really just starting to wear on me. So that's when I realized, I don't know that I want to continue doing this the way that I'm doing it, but I didn't really know what was next. Interestingly enough, I signed up for a mastermind. And while I was in that mastermind, I got a really interesting question, which was, LaTisha, do you read? And I remember thinking, like, yeah, of course I read. But then I really thought about the question and I said, no, I actually don't read as much as I used to. So anyways, I got back into a reading habit. I decided to read about 5 minutes per day. And I ended up reading by the end of that year in something like an average of a book a week. And I would alternate between like books just for fun, like I used to read when I was a kid, like just these fictional sci-fi type books, and books that were intellectual, what I felt like I had to read. And one book in particular, which is called So Good They Can't Ignore You, really hammered a point home for me, which was, if you're feeling burnt out or if you're feeling tired of what you're doing, you might not need to move on to something else. Maybe you just need to like just operate in your zone of genius. When you're in your zone of genius, things are easy and they feel easier. And I started thinking about that, and it really hit home for me because it was true. Like all the stuff that I loved about my business was all the marketing stuff. I actually loved thinking about new different ad creatives, and launching was my favorite thing. If you were there around the time, you know that I launched multiple products. I had over 50 products that I was selling at the time that have since been retired, but I was constantly launching. I loved thinking about, okay, the email sequences that needed to go, and what was the concept of the launch, and then what was the live stream that needed to go with it, and what were the YouTube videos that would help someone get to the point where they were thinking about this. Like that whole process of persuasive content, like that's my zone of genius. That's what I enjoy. But I felt like I couldn't really do that because I was also focusing on, oh, I need to get my accountant these numbers, or, oh, this person has just filed a dispute. I need to go into my dispute paperwork folder and, put all the stuff together so I can send it over to Stripe so I can get this money back from someone who clearly spent it and logged into the platform. And all of these things were just like causing me to go into this spiral. I'm not the only one who's talked about burnout from like a creator led business. If you're familiar with Vanessa Lau, she's talked about this as well. There was another creator who he talked about burnout and how he was essentially retiring. There were a lot of people around the same time that made a similar decision. So it wasn't just me. And I don't even think it was like a COVID backlash or anything like that. For me personally, it was just the fact of the matter of I had hit a goal that I had internally and I was ready to make a change. So at that point, I wasn't really sure what I needed to do. Do I, change my services? Initially, I worked for an agency and decided to just do like marketing services for the agency, but that still kind of felt like I had to hustle and like I still was running my own business essentially because I had to, like, they weren't feeding me leads. So I had to, spin up a cold outbound email outreach to start trying to get leads. And then I needed to do my own sales calls. They weren't doing the sales calls. So now I had to do my own sales calls. Then I also had to deliver because I was kind of like a fractional, a CMO, a bolt on for this agency operating in my zone of genius, but I still had to do all these other things. So it still didn't feel quite right. So what that meant is that I decided that, okay, I kind of want to just get a job. And I guess my question to myself was like, do I have permission to do that? Is it okay? Is it okay for me to get a job? And the answer to that question was a resounding yes. It is okay for you to get a job. So I decided it wasn't even a dust off my resume. At this point, it was really do I even have a resume that reflects what I've done and the skills that I have? And so my previous resume that I was sending out was very much a conglomerate of I'm an entrepreneur and these are all the things I can do. And that's great, but that did not give me very many responses. I got lots of form rejections. I got lots of thanks, but no thanks. We'll file your email. Is it okay if we keep your information on file? All of those things. So that's when I decided to just narrow down and get really clear on what am I actually good at and what do I want to do? Because I'm actually good at paid ads. I don't like doing paid ads. It's kind of painful for me to think of different creatives, especially how things have changed. You really need to rotate your creatives more often. You need to do different channels based on where someone is in the buying cycle. And like, that's just not fun for me. I can do it, but I don't necessarily like it. What I do like is, as I mentioned, persuasive copy. So that's webinars. I like presenting. I like emails that I might need to send out and thinking about the steps in the funnel. So I decided to redirect my resume for marketing. And as I changed it for marketing, I started sending it out. And guess what? I got nothing. Marketing is a tough field if you're not specific. The reason that I say that is sales is very, very close to revenue. Marketing is one step away from sales, but only if you're clear on what you're offering. Paid media is almost as close, like running ads is almost as close as you can get to generating revenue for the business because you can specifically show and say, hey, I ran these ads, it brought in these leads. But someone who's doing persuasive copywriting, it's like, well, do we really need you? AI is coming into play. So I got nothing, unfortunately. And I didn't give up. I was still running the business at that point. So I was still generating a full-time income from my business. I still had a W-2 salary from my business. Like my business was doing fine. And I had an S corp and like everything was like still set up and going. But inside most of 2022 and 2023, I was really feeling like something has to change. So some of this is, if you guys were following along, like some of this is very visible in the content that I was creating and the things that I was producing. So I get to a point where I realize, okay, I need to just get as close to the money as possible. And I have a quote that I don't know where I got this from or if I made it up myself, but I say, like, if you can make it rain, your bank account will never be dry. And I know how to make it rain. I can talk to someone, have a conversation. I'm comfortable chatting with people. And if there's something that I feel like they need, I can make a sale. So I decided to transition my resume to a sales resume. Hey, now I'm a salesperson. Now, sales positions are always open. You can go online and LinkedIn, look for sales positions. There are always people hiring for sales. Will they give you a call back if you don't have sales experience specifically on your resume? Very unlikely. So what I decided to do, and especially in like software sales, there's like a clear and distinct path that starts with sales development representative. And I knew that I wanted to be in software sales. If I was going to pick sales at all, I needed to be in software sales because that's where the money resides. I mean, if we're going to make it rain, why not make it thunder, right? So I decided to reconfigure my resume so that it was very focused for a sales development representative role, like super entry level. These jobs are, sometimes starting at 40K, 50K plus a bonus if you hit your goal. And I was okay with that. I was at the point where I said, like, I'm willing to just start from the bottom and I can work my way up. I don't mind if it takes time, like that's fine. I seriously was at that point where I was willing to accept like basically almost whatever, as long as it was entry level role in tech sales. So I started sending that application out, and suddenly like that started hitting. I was getting call after call after call. And I remember I had one interview where it was a job that would have been the next state over, but it was remote. And I was like this close to getting that one. I didn't get it, but I got another job. At that job, I was there for a couple of months. All of this is on my LinkedIn. So if you connect with me on LinkedIn, you can see this journey there as well. I ended up getting another job being a sales development representative, and I was managing essentially cold outreach, cold outbound emails. And I was killing it. I was doing great, hitting my numbers, hitting my quota. And at the same time, it was a fairly small business. So I decided to continue looking for something that was a little bit more stable, just in case anything happened. Like, I'm looking at the market and the environment, and I'm always looking at it with my eyes wide open. So I started applying on LinkedIn with, now I have a couple of months of experience, and now I have a resume that I know hits. Let me start sending this out. So I send it out and I get the interview for the company that I'm currently at and that I've been at for 2 years now. And I get hired. I get hired as an entry level sales development representative. My boss is super cool. She's very like exciting and engaging. And it just seemed like a great opportunity. And it really was. I was traveling for work. I had to go to different conferences, meet with potential clients, get them scheduled in on a call with our sales team, and attempt to hit my quota from flying from Atlanta to all these places. That was a lot of fun. They told us that after 1 year, I would be eligible for a potential promotion. I got promoted within 11 months because that's just how we roll over here. But because, I was always willing to give 120%. And I was talking about this to my mentee the other day, but a lot of people, they work just to survive. And I want work to be fun. I want it to be something that I actually want to do, that I actually enjoy. And like, I found that I actually enjoy doing this. So once I realized that, I was like, yeah, sure. Why not volunteer for these extra projects? Why not help people out over here? Why not use these interpersonal skills that I have to connect with other people in the organization so that they're aware of who I am, so that when it is time for promotions, they're like, oh, I know LaTisha, I've chatted with her. Especially being a remote employee, it's even more important to make those connections because people don't see you every day. And you don't get those, those water cooler in the hallway type chats where you have that visibility. So within the first year, I was able to get promoted, and then I got promoted again right around the 2 year mark, or actually before the 2 year mark. Yeah, because 2 years was last month, and I got promoted at the start of this year. So it's been a crazy run. It's been super exciting. Like I said, you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. Please add a note because I do get a lot of connection requests with like going to events and things like that. Only recently I opened up my LinkedIn profile so that it's visible on search. I did not have it that way prior. And then the one thing that you'll notice is that my brand name is still here on YouTube versus LinkedIn, which got my government name. So that is today's video. I think I'm going to cut it here. I gave myself a goal of publishing and getting this video out. So today is Wednesday, June 3rd. This video will be edited today and you will see it. If it's not Thursday, June 4th, by the time you see this video, then comment your Cash App. Hopefully that doesn't get the comments blocked. Don't do the $. Comment your Cash App in the comments below and I will send you $5. I have to do it because otherwise this is going to go viral and I will be out my last $5. Anyways, in upcoming videos, I have made a commitment to vlog. So here's what I'm going to do. I've got some travel coming up. I'm headed to New York to go to the New York offices. I want to bring you guys along with me. I'm volunteering at a conference here in Atlanta. I want to bring you along with me. I've got some vacation coming up. So fun travel, doing that as well. Connect with me on Instagram. I do have my Brazil travels that are on there. I have more content from that. It's not widescreen, so you'll just kind of see it tall screen. That's absolutely fine. At this point, I'm like, whatever, however it needs to get out there, it's going to get out there. And then I've got more travel coming up for work. We've got Norway coming up. I've got London coming up. I got potentially Lisbon if I can get that in. We got a lot going on. So please be sure to follow. Let me know if there's any other topics that you'd like to hear more about. I'm taking this channel in a little bit of a new direction. So this is the very first video of a brand new world. So welcome. Glad to have you. And be sure to like, subscribe, and come back for more. Bye.